4 years on, the Indigenous intervention looks like it still has quite a way to run. Today, the federal government announced further measures to tackle alcohol abuse, to create jobs and to improve school attendance. Getting Indigenous kids to school regularly has proved to be a huge hurdle, and the government's going to expand a trial program that links welfare payments to school attendance. As you might expect, there's already opposition to the move, as Sarah Everingham reports from Darwin.
In remote communities around the Northern Territory, the school day often begins early for teachers.
Morning, Donna.
Picking up students to make sure they get to school. In recent years at Hermannsburg, 130 kilometres west of Alice Springs, teachers have been determined to get kids to class.
Come on, guys, school time.
We offer Wheat Bix and Milo at 8 o'clock in the morning. At 10:30 the children all get a hot meal, and at 1 o'clock they have sandwiches and fruit every day. So that's a fairly significant incentive to come to school.
Elsie. Good morning, Mother.
The low rates of school attendance in remote Territory communities has long perplexed governments in Darwin and Canberra. Hermannsburg's one of several communities around the Northern Territory where the Commonwealth's been trialling a scheme linking school attendance and welfare payments for the past 3 years.
It's clear that attendance is the main game for us, particularly given the low levels of attendance that we witness in the Northern Territory compared to what happens nationally.
It's huge. Well, look at the figures. There's 2,000 of our kids who don't go to school.
The Commonwealth intervention in the Northern Territory has just under a year left to run, and the government needs to consider where it goes to after that. After a series of government consultations with communities around the Territory, Indigenous Affairs Minister Jenny Macklin says the focus is now on education.
Aboriginal people want to see their children getting to school and doing well at school.
From July next year, the government wants to crack down on school truancy. If children miss 10 days in a term without an adequate excuse, the government will step in.
What do you say?
If children don't return to school, their parents' payments will be suspended.
The government is responding to these priorities that have been put to us so forcefully by Aboriginal people. We've worked very closely with local people, with their leaders, with the Northern Territory government to put this package of legislation in front of the Parliament.
I have no doubt that Aboriginal parents want to get their kids to school. That's been my experience right across the country.
Dr Chris Sara is a leading expert on Indigenous education. A former teacher and principal, he's directly taken on the issue of school attendance. He questions whether there's enough carrot in the government's plan.
The problem with the big stick approach is that it is so politically sexy that it looks fantastic to the broader electorate, but we are spending large amounts of money that only see a minimal return. We know for sure that when we invest smaller amounts in positive relationships, we get a much bigger return.
Right. Good afternoon, Keithan.
The government's trial of the scheme has been running in 44 schools for 3 years at a cost of $31 million.
So we don't know why Zachariah's not at school.
The government did not provide any figures, but says indications from the trial show it is helping to improve attendance. But Chris Sara says governments need to encourage school attendance by providing better schools and enforce it through existing laws.
What I found problematic is there were police and magistrates who lacked courage to execute the law or the authority that they had. Now, if those kinds of people had the courage to execute the law in an Aboriginal community in the same way as they would in a white community, if systemically we had the courage to intervene in those sorts of circumstances, there wouldn't be any requirement for this.
Look, I think the key thing here is this is about sitting down with parents and agreeing an attendance plan. It might be something as simple as saying to the parents, we want you to walk your kids to school and bring them back again if they're primary age.
On the ground, there's agreement school attendance is a problem, but division on what needs to be done. For Indigenous people campaigning for an end to the intervention, the government's plan is only likely to reinvigorate their fight.
I've never heard any Aboriginal people say that we want to link school attendance with our welfare payments or income management. We need to get our kids to school, and we need to take drastic measures, and you need that tough love approach.
Bess Price has left her position as the chairwoman of the Northern Territory Government's Indigenous Advisory Council and is running for the Country Liberals in the next Territory election. She says the government's plan is long overdue.
I've been talking to people who've said, look, penalise the parents, take their welfare payments away, because, you know, they don't deserve it, because they don't worry about their kids' education.
The first federal intervention in the Northern Territory was criticised for failing to consult with communities, but the minister insists she's keen to take a different approach to win over hearts and minds.
We do need to keep working with Aboriginal people to make sure that their communities are safe, to make sure that people have got the chance to get a good job and their kids are getting a good education.
And the school truancy legislation will go before the federal parliament next week.